Tuesday. We're studying film studies. I'm sure, hopefully, most of you heard that they've announced that school is closed until May 1st. So I'm going to miss you guys a lot, and I guess that means that we'll probably only have about a month together at the end of the school year. And I hope I get to see you guys then. May 1st. I'll see you then. Okay, let's talk about film studies here. You guys should have done your 10 do-it-yourself examples by now, hopefully, and you should have done your Act 1. Before we get started today, I want to show you guys this beat sheet of an entire movie. So this paper here is essentially a map of what the entire story of a movie. The pink right here is what we did last time, Act 1. So I want to review to help refresh your memories here. We have the opening image, which is going to be a mirror image of the final image that happens at the end of the movie. And then somewhere in the first 10 minutes of the movie, a main character, probably someone who's wiser than, a character who's wiser than the main character, is going to state the theme for us. They're going to tell the main character the lesson they need to learn. And that's the lesson that they're going to learn by the end of this movie. Okay, then it's going to show us some pictures of the setup, the character's home, work, and play. And then there's going to be an event that propels the character into motion. And they're going to debate what to do about that event. And this can be just 5 seconds long where we see a little bit of internal wrestling. And then the break into Act 2 is when the hero is going to leave their old world behind and enter into a new world. Or, on occasion, something new and exciting comes into their old world and changes their life. Okay? The first thing that it's important to understand about the second act is that by the end of the first act, your character has established something that they want. So maybe you did The Incredibles. At the end of Act 1, Mr. Incredible wants to be a superhero again. He wants to take this job that his wife wouldn't approve of, so that he can relive his glory days of being a superhero. In Mulan, this is where the act break is when she leaves behind being a girl and living at home with her parents and joins the army, and what she wants is to bring honor to her family. And let's see, if we're talking about Hercules, he wants to find out his identity. He wants to know who he is and where he belongs. He sings a little song about finding where he belongs as he's journeying out of his old world and into his new world. Lots of Disney's characters are going to sing songs about leaving their old world and what they want. So in Frozen, this is where Anna runs across the lake singing her song about being able to be herself and let go of all the control she's been having. Let's see, we did The Incredibles, okay? By the end of the first act in The Princess and the Frog, we've established that Tiana wants a restaurant. She's working really, really hard to get a restaurant. Okay? So your character has established a want, and what's going to happen at the end of Act 2 is they're going to give up on that thing they want in exchange for something that they need. And their need is probably also established in your first act already, but they don't realize what they need now. So in The Incredibles, he wants to be a superhero, but what he needs is to learn how to get along with his wife and be a father and a husband. In Princess and the Frog, what she wants is a restaurant, but what she needs is love. In Legally Blonde, Elle Woods wants to get her boyfriend back, but what she needs is to build some confidence in her own intelligence and abilities. In How to Train Your Dragon, what he wants is to kill a dragon and be a tough Viking, but what he needs is he needs to learn how to trust himself and be himself and be confident with who he is, okay? So make sure that you understand your character's want and need before we move forward. Now, we established where our act broke at the end of Act 1 before we analyzed the entire act. And we need to do the same thing again, because I don't want you to get into Act 3 without realizing that you're in Act 3. Because for today's purposes, we're only going to analyze this green set, this row of mostly green right here. Okay, so we need to find the end of Act 2. We've already found the beginning of Act 2. This is where your hero leaves their old world and starts in a new world. We need to find where the end of Act 2 is, because we don't want you to go past that. So we're going to jump ahead here for a minute, and then we'll go back to the beginning of Act 2. But the first thing that we need to find is the end of Act 2. And what you're looking for at the end of Act 2 is called the Dark Night of the Soul. So if we divide a movie up into, if you divide this bar down here into thirds, you're looking for about 2/3 of the way through the movie, give or take 10 minutes or so. So we had the act break. Let's start with a nice easy one. Right here, Hercules is leaving his old world at 20 minutes. He's singing his I'm on my way song. And then we're looking for, so it's, this act starts right here at 20 minutes. We got to find where it ends. So I'm going to go about 2/3 of the way through the movie over here on this side. And what I'm looking for is I'm looking for a place where the hero loses everything and they seem really sad. So right here, look at this. It looks like Hercules is doing some major losing right here.
I'm willing to go the distance. How about you?
Yeah, this is looking promising. In fact, I'm even looking like this section right here looks pretty good because he's having a talk. It's probably going to be a quietish moment that you're looking for. So look for a conversation. Look for a scene where your character is doing some internal reflecting. In fact, what you're really mostly looking for here is for your character to say, I was wrong, I was stupid, I made a mistake. Okay, so here's some kind of, these scenes right here look promising in Hercules, where he's losing Meg and he's sad about it. Here in Frozen, I'm going to go about 2/3 of the way through the movie, and I'm looking for a place where the main character has lost everything. Their friends are probably mostly mad at them at this point, and I want to hear them say, I was wrong, I was stupid, I didn't know what I was talking about. This looks pretty promising. Let's watch for a second.
Get away from there.
Whoa. So this is heat. I love it. Ooh, but don't touch it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, where's Hans? What happened to your kiss?
I was wrong about him. It wasn't true love.
But we ran all the way here.
Please, Olaf, you can't stay here. You'll melt.
I am not leaving here until we find some other act of true love to save you. Do you happen to have any ideas?
I don't even know what love is.
Okay, Anna says, I was wrong. I don't know what I'm talking about. Here, again, I'm going to look 2/3 of the way through the movie, so I'm going to be right about here. Yeah, this is looking promising. He's in chains. He's lost a lot of things. I'm going to keep going. I don't think he says he's wrong there. If I can find a place where he says I was wrong and stupid, that's best. Yeah, I think he does it right here.
You are my great... I'm sorry. This is my fault. I've been a lousy father. Blind to what I have. So obsessed with being undervalued that I undervalued all of you.
Oh, there it is. I was wrong. I was stupid. Okay, let's see. Let's do the same thing here. 2/3 of the way through the movie, I'm looking for a quiet little sit-down scene where they've lost everything. The main character has lost everything. They're having an emotional moment. They might be having just a quiet conversation with one friend here. This looks like it.
Autograph princess about to kiss herself.
Frog.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here tonight in this fine celebration to
Oh,
join
she's
together
lost her
this prince
love.
and this young woman in
I don't know if
holy
she says I was wrong here, but let's wait and see.
This can be right, darling.
She says, oh,
And
this
how
is
you can
wrong.
still be a frog. Mama Odie, she's...
Okay, that one not quite. But that's probably the all is lost moment because she lost everything. So that's promising. This one's a really good example. So let's just do this one and then call it good here.
Lead us home, devil.
It's a mess. You must feel horrible. You've lost everything.
Listen to that. All is lost. You've lost everything. You lost your father, your friends.
Father, your tribe, your best friend.
Thank you for summing that up. Why couldn't I have killed that dragon when I found him in the woods?
Okay. We're going to stay inside the green boundaries. We're going to stay between the time that your character leaves their old world and comes into their new world and the moment where they admit that they were wrong the whole time and they were stupid and they didn't do anything right. Okay? That's all we're going to analyze today. So, inside, so you're looking basically from the time about 20 minutes into the movie until about an hour and 20 minutes into the movie-ish. If you're going very much outside of that, you might be looking at the wrong section of the script. Okay? Once you've found your All is Lost and Dark Night of the Soul, you're ready to move on. So let's talk about the next sections of Act 2. The second thing that you're going to look for in Act 2 is what's called a B story or a subplot. And I'll talk to you guys about the difference. I'm going to add that here. Okay, the B story or the subplot is the second smaller story of the movie, and the most often it's a love story. If you're watching a romance movie, then the romance is the A story and there will be a different subplot. But if the movie that you're watching is not primarily a romance, then usually it's romance. In Disney movies, it's usually romance. So the A story in Hercules is Hercules trying to find out where he belongs and who he is and how to be a hero. And the B story is where he meets Meg. Okay, the B story is usually going to come, it's not going to come before the act break probably. So it's going to be about 30-ish minutes into the movie. You're going to see a B story, a second story start to emerge. Here is where Hercules meets Meg.
Now remember, first analyze the situation. Don't just barrel in there without thinking. He doesn't point for this.
Okay. In Frozen's an interesting one. So the difference between a B story and a subplot is that a B story, it's a second story that's happening to your main character, like Hercules meeting Meg. A subplot is happening to a different character. So the primary story of the movie Frozen is Anna learning how to use her powers and become the ruler of the kingdom and becoming a strong, independent woman. And the subplot, it doesn't really have a B story as much. There's not really a second story that happens to to Elsa. It has a subplot because what it does have is it has the story of Anna falling in love with Kristoff. Okay? In The Incredibles, the primary story is Mr. Incredible learning to be a good husband and father and accepting himself and The subplots are stories that are happening to, like, his daughter Violet, who gets a crush on this boy at school, but she's too shy to talk to him, and his son Dash, who wants to run in races, but he's not allowed to. Those are subplots. Okay? It kind of depends on what movie you're watching, if your movie's going to have a B story or a subplot. If your main character falls in love, that's probably a B story. This one has the whole subplot of Charlotte and her finding a man to fall in love with, a prince. That's a subplot in this one. Yeah, in How to Train Your Dragon, the primary story is about Hiccup befriending this dragon, and the B story is about him falling in love with Astrid. Okay? Same in Mulan. It's a romance B story. I don't know Moana well enough to know. I bet that the subplot involves this character somehow, because he seems like he's got his own plot line going on, just from what I vaguely remember. Yeah, actually, Legally Blonde has subplots and B stories. It has a B story of Elle Woods and her friendship with this manicurist who she meets just after she arrives at Harvard. She decides she needs a manicure and she makes this new friend. That's a B story. It also has a subplot because she falls in love with that hot professor, this dude right here. Okay, this is the B story. So after your act breaks, you'll see probably a love story introduced. And one important difference between an A story and a B story is an A story is usually visual. You'll see like fighting or car chases on the screen, or you'll see Elle Woods going to law school. And a B story, it's often an internal conflict. It's how do they feel about something? How do they feel about another person in the movie? Okay, that's the B story. Identify it. Analyze that right here in question 2. The third thing you're going to look for is called the fun and games. And the fun and games happens between the act break, right when the first act break, that is, when the character leaves their home, and the middle of the movie. So you move your cursor right smack into the middle, and you're going to see some big event happening in the middle right here. Here we go. And we're not going to go past the middle when we're looking for these fun and games, okay? The fun and games are going to be what you expect to see when you go to the movie theater. What do you see in like the trailers and on the movie posters? If I'm watching Hercules, I expect to see like a Greek god in training. I expect to see him fighting bad guys and like scenes of the Colosseum and those kind of things. So yeah, maybe talking to women. Yeah, these kind of things are look at these vases. This is exactly what I expect to see when I go see the movie Hercules. Here's a hero. Here's hero training school. That's exactly the type of scene I would expect when I go see Hercules. Then he fights this centaur thing. He meets this beautiful woman. He fights whatever this is. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's called a centaur. Okay? It's the promise of the premise, what you expect to see when you go to the movie. It usually takes up 30% of the entire movie time, and it happens between the act break and the midpoint. It's just there to, it entertains us, it's having fun, it's fun for the viewer, not necessarily the character. The character either shines or fails at their new environment, this new world that they've come into after the first act break. They're either succeeding or failing. So Hercules, at first, he's kind of a scrawny wimp and he fails at hero school. Here he is kind of not succeeding very much. But then he gets buff. So he starts getting good at being a hero. Here we go. Yeah. In Frozen. This is going to be from the time that Anna runs off onto the ice singing Let It Go and the midpoint of the movie. So I'm going to expect to see, yeah, this is where you see Anna and Kristoff's adventure through the ice to find Anna. So I'm going to, yep, these are exactly the type of scenes that I've seen in the previews. Anna singing, Elsa singing, sorry. I keep calling her Anna, don't I? Here's their frozen adventure through the tundra. Oh, they meet a cute little snowman. That's what I was promised when I saw the trailer for this movie. It's what I'm expecting to see. In The Incredibles, I'm going to see a whole bunch of superhero type scenes. He's going to be fighting monsters and wearing super suits. That's exactly what I'm getting right here. This is just classic superhero.
Aren't we all?
Volcanic soil is
Yeah, this is like Bruce Wayne type of... It's exactly the promise of the premise. In The Princess and the Frog, I'm going to expect to see the two frogs on the bayou having a journey together. There's going, yep.
Hey guys, I just had me a crazy idea. What if I asked Mama Odie to turn me human?
It's exactly the type of scene I would expect. In How to Train Your Dragon, I'm going to see some dragon fighting scenes and some dragon training scenes. Vikings, and yeah, just Vikings acting like Vikings, okay? These are just, we're building the world, we're engaging our audience, we're trying to deliver what we promised when people came to see our movie.
It's us, idiots.
Your butts are getting bigger. We thought you were a dragon.
Not that there's anything wrong with a dragon-esque figure.
Perfect. All right. Okay, that's the fun and games. It's 30% of the movie. The next thing you're going to look for is the midpoint. This is really easy to find because you just about can move your cursor right into the middle of the movie. And usually at the middle of the movie, the hero is having a good moment. They've just had a victory. Sometimes they have a defeat, okay? So I'm going to move my cursor right to the middle, and I'm going to look for my hero to have a victory right in the middle here. Yeah, look at this. Hercules has just taken down this dragon, or this two-headed monster in the city of Thieves, and here we go, a victory.
You gotta admit, that is pretty heroic.
Hercules is so cute. Okay, in Frozen, this is where Kristoff and Anna finally reach this palace that they've been searching for.
Now that's ice. I'm gonna cry.
Go ahead. I won't judge.
Another thing that's important that happens at the midpoint is the stakes have to go up. So the midpoint in The Incredibles is he escapes Syndrome's first attack against him. He gets out of this dark cave right here, and he sneaks into Syndrome's home. And this raises the stakes because it's a very dangerous place for Mr. Incredible to be. In this one right here, this is a great example of a midpoint. This is the Princess and the Frog, and the Voodoo Man enlists the help of these demons to find the frog. And he says, listen, if you guys can help me find these frogs, you can have all the souls of New Orleans. Let's watch this for a second.
You'll love that, don't you?
Oh, I missed it. Hang on.
I hear you. Now, what's in it for y'all? Well, as soon as I dispose of Big Daddy LaBeouf, and I'm running this town, I'll have the entire city of New Orleans in the palm of my hand. And you have all the wayward souls your dark little heart's desire.
Okay, the stakes just went up. All the souls of New Orleans are at stake. In How to Train Your Dragon, this is where he's having some success in dragon school, and he has this little heart-to-heart with his dad, and his dad's like, hey, finally we have something in common. We can be buddies now because you're going to win at this dragon fighting tournament. The stakes kind of went up. If he doesn't win, his dad's going to be very disappointed in him. I'm trying to think. Oh, in Mulan, this is where her army unit gets sent to the front line. So the stakes just went up because her unit's going to have to go to war. I don't know that one. Oh, and this one's a great one. Right here, at the midway, look, I moved my cursor halfway. Elwood, she has a little victory. She answers this question in class, and her professor says, good job, and everybody's really impressed because they all thought she was ditzy and stupid. And then she goes outside, and her professor says, hey, you should apply for this internship. So now the stakes aren't just law school anymore. She's having some success, and her professor's noticing, and he invites her to apply for an internship.
No parental claim over this child. What?
Let's see. There, she just answered a question right, and her professor's proud of her.
Well today.
Really?
You're applying for my internship, aren't you?
I don't know.
You should. You have a resume?
Yes, I do. Here it is.
It's pink.
Oh, and it's scented. I think it gives it a little something extra, don't you think?
Brilliant. Okay, so the stakes just went up. Hey, there's an internship at stake here. Okay, so look for a victory that raises the stakes. Okay, I want you to explain to me how it raises the stakes, and is it a victory or a defeat for the character, and why? Okay, and then the next thing that's going to happen in your movie is called The Bad Guys Close In. And after this little victory that your character probably has at the midpoint, the bad guys are going to kind of re-rally. So here's Hercules' victory, and here's Hades, and he's trying to get his stuff together again. So he goes and he gets Meg, this girl that Hercules is in love with. And it looks like he's going to rally his team a little. What's going to happen to the heroes team, the heroes helpers, is dissent and doubt and jealousy are going to begin to work their way into his team. So Hercules and Meg start having some problems because Meg really is helping Hades here because he owns her soul or something like that. In Frozen, it's not dissent and doubt. Well, there is doubt and dissent and jealousy that begin to creep in because after Anna reaches the palace, her sister sends her away, kind of meanly. And by the end of this, she's separated from Kristoff as well. Okay. Here in The Incredibles, his wife has found out that he's having she thinks that he's having an affair, and she's kind of angry at him, and they all get separated from each other, the Incredible family. Look for something that causes doubt, dissent, and jealousy on the heroes team, and you're going to look for the bad guys coming together. Now, the last two scenes in this middle act of the movie, the second act, they're called The All Is Lost and The Dark Night of the Soul. And they're very, very similar to each other. The All Is Lost scene is when your character loses what they had. They lose their friends. Let's see. In Hercules, he thinks he loses Meg, and he's lost his superpowers, and he's lost his battle with the Titans. He's lost everything. In Frozen, Kristoff and Anna are separated, and Anna's lost her sister, and she's lost Hans because she realizes that Hans never really loved her. The all is lost scene is when they physically lose what's happening, the thing that they've been working for. And then the dark night of the soul, it doesn't have to be, well, it's kind of its own beat, its own moment in the movie where they stop to reflect internally on what they've lost. The all is lost is an external loss, and the dark night of the soul is when they kind of admit it and they wrestle with it, and they're wrestling with the internal conflict of it. Okay? So the dark night of the soul is going to be the moment when they have to tell someone, I was an idiot, I was wrong, I was stupid. Okay? They have to give up their chase for that thing that they need. They have to give up the control and learn a lesson. So this need that we established at the beginning of Act, or this want that they established at the beginning of Act 2, they give up on that here. Hiccup says, I was stupid, I was wrong to want to be like all the other Vikings. And instead, they're going to start pursuing what they need. In fact, let me show you a cool thing here. Yeah, in this one.
You can give your poor daddy everything he ever wanted. Come on, Tiana. You're almost
My daddy never did get what he wanted. But he had what he needed. He had love. He never lost sight of what was really important.
easy with that.
So Tiana's realizing, hey, I want a restaurant, but what I need is love. And here in Hercules, he's wanted always to be a god, but he gives that up. He gives up his immortality to save Meg. He's wanted to be immortal and join the gods, but he's realized what he needs is love, so he literally gives up his immortality. He jumps into the sea of death to get what he needs, which is love, Meg. In The Incredibles, he gives up his dream of being a hero and exchanges it for his relationship with his family. He realizes, yeah.
Blind to what I have. So obsessed with being undervalued that I undervalued all of you.
Dad?
Oh, I wanted to be a hero, but what I needed was my family. Okay? So that's the dark night of the soul, is when they realize their mistake, they admit it, they learn a lesson, they give up what they want to get what they need. I just want to point out a couple things that might be helpful to you. These crisscrossing lines here on this beat sheet. The character has a want, and at the midpoint of the movie, it seems like they have got what they want. It seemed like Hercules had become a hero. He defeated that monster. Everybody was calling him a hero. It seemed like he got what he wanted, but it was a false victory. And then when the bad guys close in, they have despair that leads them to be willing to give up what they want. Okay? So pay attention to these crisscrossing lines on the beat sheet. We're going from want to false victory. They despair because it looks like the bad guys might beat them, and that despair causes them to be willing to give up on the thing that they want to get the thing that they need. All right, I think that's everything for today. You guys are going to fill out your Act 2 beat sheet. This is public right here. I've got the settings set to public, so you should be able to access it without getting permissions. You can type right into the document in our Canvas classroom. You can type right on there, and it will not change my original document. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me. Get this done. I'll upload another video on Thursday. Have a great day, guys. Can't wait to see you again.
Mom, I'm gonna go see Katie.